Okay, great. Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Whitney Diver McAvoy, the President and CEO of the Yountville Chamber of Commerce, and you are joining us today for the Yountville Chamber webinar on recycling and compost and new regulations that are coming in 2022. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is a very important topic that we are covering today, and we have a wonderful presentation for you. I'd just like to acknowledge everybody that is here today, and then we'll go ahead and introduce our folks who are going to present. So I'd first like to acknowledge Vice Mayor of Yountville, Carrie Dorman, for joining us today. Thank you for being here. I'd also like to acknowledge Council Member Margie Moeller, who is here with us today. And Council Member Moeller also serves as the chair of the Upper Valley Agency for Waste Management. So trash is dear to her heart, as we know. So we thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I'd also like to acknowledge our two presenters today, and that is Amanda Griffith with the Napa County Environmental Resource Specialist for the County of Napa, and then Christy Pistone, of course, Chief Operations Officer for Upper Valley Disposal and Recycling. So thank you both for being here today. And before we get started, I wanted to give Chair Moeller an opportunity to talk a little bit about kind of the efforts of the Upper Valley Waste Agency and kind of what you guys are doing. And then we'll go ahead and turn it over to the presenters to begin the presentation. Margie.
Great, Whitney. Thank you very much for that very nice introduction. And what our agency does, it's the Upper Valley Waste Management Agency. This is it's a joint powers authority. We have two members, these are elected officials, two members from the county, and then myself representing Yountville, and we have another member from St. Helena as well as Calistoga. We work very closely with our Upper Valley company, waste management company. Christy was just introduced by Whitney, and as well as Amanda, who helps serve our agency as well. So that's who we are, and we are really looking forward to letting all of you know much more about this, probably the most important new state law, SB 1383, that regulates waste management and what goes into landfills probably over the last 50 years. So this is very important to all of us, and this law applies to residents as well as businesses. It's a mandatory law, so we're going to help get you some education and answer your questions. And thank you all for attending today.
Excellent, Margie. Thank you very much for that. All right, well, Amanda and Christy, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you to begin the presentation. Amanda, you should be able to share your screen, no problem. Let me know if you have any issues. Oh, here we go, perfect.
Oh, I think I started a couple slides in. There we go, all right. So I had kind of in my notes to do a little intro, but Margie was able to do that for us. So I'll just do a quick one on myself. I'm Amanda Griffith. I work for Napa County, and I'm also staff for the Upper Valley Waste Management Agency. So that means I kind of assist with compliance with various state laws in Yountville, also other Upper Valley areas. Chrissy?
Okay, great. Yeah, so this campaign that we're sort of rolling out these last few months is called Let's Reconnect Up Valley. And it's just basically a good time with 1383, the mandate coming January 1 of 2022. It's requiring organics to be removed from the waste stream. And so we've sort of coined our next education rollout, Let's Reconnect, and we're covering everything from all the laws to just basic recycling information and what can and cannot go into the recycling stream. So we're really thankful that the Chamber allowed us this format. And I'd like to just say to the businesses and residents that are on the seminar today, at any time, please reach out to Amanda or our company, and we're ready to come and do trainings in your business or in little group pods in your community. So
All right.
Next slide. Yeah. So I'm speaking later today to the Calistoga Rotary, and one of the city council members that organized the chit chat this afternoon really wanted to talk about the rate increase that we had on July 1. And Margie was very much instrumental. Even though it was a 17.95% rate increase, it was definitely warranted to sort of revamp the services that are required for 1383, and not just for 1383, but other better services for the members community. And we refer to each member as each city or the unincorporated area of the county that we service. And so this afternoon, I'll probably be spending a little more time on this pie chart. The chart was actually provided by the auditors who audit our financials each year. And this is just an example of where those fees went. Regarding the company, I think our portion was about 7%. And the remainder were just different services that we are now providing within the community, and including services for your cities and town. And I don't know, Margie, if you wanted to just give a brush on this since you're on the call, if you wanted to comment about it. Maybe not. Okay.
No, I was just muted. So just real quickly, we'd had a contract, the Upper Valley Waste Management, a contract in place with our waste hauler and recycling companies, as well as the Clover Flat Landfill, since the very early 1990s. In that time, so many new regulations in the industry had taken place that we decided, it took us almost 2 years to get it all done, but we restated that contract and we really focused on the services that were needed to the customers that we were not providing, as well as providing enough resources to the company so that they could enact the new regulations. So that's really, where these numbers are coming from overall. And again, 17.9% seems like a high percentage, but when it really comes down to your bill every month, we're really talking about, about $4 at least, for just generally speaking for residential increases. So I think it's really been a great initiative and collaboration with the company. So
thank you. Okay, Amanda, I think we can go to the loss slide.
Sure. All right, so I'll cover these kind of briefly for everyone. So in regards to 1383, it's kind of spoken of as the most significant waste management mandate since 1989, which was a law called AB 939, which kind of started recycling as we know it today. So this law is kind of doing that, but for diverting compost. What will probably kind of be the points of the law that will affect businesses the most is that businesses will be required to divert all of their organic waste, which would be food scraps, food soil, paper, all your yard waste, yard trimmings, all of that needs to be separated and diverted for compost. Another point of the law that would affect possibly some of our businesses, maybe probably some of the larger resorts in the county, is a food recovery portion of the law. So statewide, we need to increase food recovery 20%. So that means getting any kind of good edible food that may be going in the compost or into the landfill, divert that to those who are hungry. So that's a very large new thing that I'm helping to kind of run the changes needed for. AB 827 is not a law that I have spent a lot of time prioritizing. So it's a new law that the state rolled out during the pandemic. And it requires that anybody that sells food on site where customers self-bus have to also provide bins for recycling, food waste or kind of compost collection, and trash. I believe the challenge with that is, would Christie's company, would Upper Valley Disposal rather receive maybe contaminated compost, you know, if maybe customers aren't sorting properly, or would it be better to kind of maybe wait for things to, maybe businesses to have more compostable items that they provide customers? So that one, if you hear about it, we're kind of not prioritizing it right now, but that one does exist. Let's see, 341 and 1826 are ones that are kind of in progress right now. So 341 requires recycling for any businesses that make 4 cubic yards or more of solid waste. That's your trash, recycling, and compost combined. I would say almost all of our businesses in our area are already complying with that one. 1826 is one that, you know, I'm continuing to kind of roll out. It'll be a little bit superseded by 1383. But as of now, that requires any businesses that makes 2 cubic yards per week of solid waste. So that's your trash, recycling, compost combined. And it's not very much. So if you picture like your 96-gallon toter at home, that's about half a yard. So it's almost every business right now should be collecting all of their compostable separate and diverting that to be made into compost again. And we'll touch on these a little bit more later, but I'll move on to the next slide.
We just revamped our website, so I encourage everyone to go there. It seems like we've been doing a lot of community outreach, a lot of advertising, a lot of social media. We actually hired a company in Sacramento that works with many of the legislatures that are in staff now. And so they're sort of really at the pulse of the media component. And so anyway, they took on the challenge of helping us modernize our website. And so if you haven't had a chance, I encourage you to go there. All the laws, there's lots of downloadable flyers in English and in Spanish. All of the rates in the neighboring communities is there. And then of course there's a box where you can send us your questions and request additional information. So, and for those of you that don't know a lot about our company, we, as Margie mentioned, it's a 2-part agreement. One is for the hauling, like the collection at your residence or at your business. And we're a fully integrated company, which is kind of unusual in today's standard, a small company that's not publicly traded. So we are an independently family-owned company. We have the collection services. We have a materials recovery facility. We offer tours if you'd like to come here and see where your blue cart or your mixed recycling commercial container goes. We're a composting operation. We compost the green cart program, as well as we're in the middle of harvest right now. And so if you're a winery, there's a chance that your grape pumice, the seed skins and stems, post winemaking is coming here, and we're composting that. Clover Flat landfill, we recoined it in 2011, Clover Flat Resource Recovery Park, because we were actually recycling more materials than we were actually disposing in the landfill. And we also created an energy component. So one of the things that we do there is the construction and demolition. So if you are doing a construction project and you need to go turn your information in as a green building code, we would give you diversion numbers of what the recycling processing area at Clover Flat is doing, and that will be compliant for your green certification. We've been operating that landfill since the early 1960s. We have a drop-off recycling center there, and our next research and development program that we're working on is a biomass gasification for wood waste. And right now with the defensible space, for fire protection, more and more, that is an important aspect on the horizon of our business development. Okay. Part of this reconnect is just, you know, many of this, much of our education process starts at home. And so we're really doing heavy outreach with our residential customers. Of course, our commercial, it's a requirement of our franchise that we reach out to each business at least one time a year in person. And then of course, multiple ongoing outreach throughout the year based on requirements through the laws that Amanda just spoke about.
Okay, so I'll cover a little bit more in 1383. I know I just kind of talked about that. So as the kind of the government entity, we are available, as Chrissy said, to assist. So if you need any help with trainings or even just green bins to go inside of your restaurant or your business to collect all the food and food sale paper, signs to help kind of show on there what should go in there, that's definitely something that we can help with. Another thing I forgot to mention earlier is 1383 does have fines associated. So right now, 1826 is the other law that I mentioned that is requiring businesses to divert compostables or organic waste out of their landfill bin or cart. But there are no teeth to it, as I call it. So if you don't comply, there's no penalties for that. But the state created 1383 and requires jurisdictions to take enforcement actions upon non-compliant entities. So this law goes into effect January 1, 2022. In the first 2 years, jurisdictions are just required to provide education, kind of assist businesses to get things going. And as of January 1st, 2024, the state requires jurisdictions to take enforcement action, when it's necessary. And the state can also, if we as a jurisdiction are not complying with these different aspects of the law, the state can also enforce upon us as the jurisdiction. So all around the state, everybody is going to be kind of facing these same issues, rolling out new programs, developing new mechanisms, methods, all sorts of changes are going to be happening around the state. I think I have it in a later slide, but the other thing you may see if you're a resident up Valley or a business that has their trash service in a cart, the state law is requiring all trash carts are gray or black, all compost carts are green, and all recycling is blue. So our trash carts right now up Valley are brown. And so those will be transitioning to gray. So you'll notice that change kind of as we move along. So this is a little bit of an ad that Upper Valley's kind of helping to distribute more in the residential side. But as part of 1383, that's requiring businesses to divert food and food scraps. The law requires that residents have that same option available. So if you're an Elk Valley resident, you may have already received your compost pail at home. So it's a great tool to keep inside. I keep mine, the same kind of pail, under my kitchen sink. And I line it with a compostable bag, and I take that out usually once a day, every other day, and put it into my compost cart that I have. And per the law, and just for kind of pests and vectors, you should set your cart out every week at home to make sure it's collected and emptied and started the compost process with Upper Valley. And for anybody that maybe lives in Napa, works in Yountville, vice versa, our program Up Valley used to be a little bit different than Napa, so it was a little bit challenging for people that moved between the areas, but now they're pretty much the same exact program. So if you're working and living in areas with different haulers, it'll be very easy to move between the different garbage zones, as we call them. And this is a little bit of an example of what can go into the compost, as we call it. So you can use BPI certified compostable bags. That's a certification for a company that kind of evaluates, lab tests different products to make sure they'll compost in an industrial facility, which is what Upper Valley has. Pizza boxes, coffee and coffee filters, greasy bags, meat, bones, dairy, nuts, shells, eggshells, all those things can go into the compost. And kind of the main thing to keep in mind is it is different than like a backyard compost. So if you're composting at home, you probably really just want to put like vegetables. You don't want to put dairy and things like that in there. So their facility is an industrial facility. So they're really able to process all these different things that we wouldn't want to put into a backyard compost. Okay, I'll turn that back over to you, Christy.
Okay, so this is our new, the slide that shows all the containers. We're gearing up for 1383. We hired 2 more people and they're out there picking debris out of the load. So we still get contamination and actually quite a bit of recycling in the green cart. And so what we've set up is the white bin is like any bottle and can material. They're picking that apart. And then if anything's considered garbage, for some reason we're getting some pressure treated wood, which is kind of considered a hazard and needs to be dealt with in a separate process. And then larger pieces of wood that may not make it through our grinder. And then, so part of 1383 is going to require us tracking all of that, weighing and tracking on a weekly basis. And so we've just sort of enacted the process now, but the material comes in, and then this orange piece of equipment that you see there is called a Dobstat. It actually grinds the material. And we have a guy, once it's gone through the grinder, if he sees any more pieces of plastic, he's trying to pick that out. One of the big challenges that we see in the wine industry, or the viticultural industry, I should say, are the little green ties. And that's a product that is very, very small and doesn't compost. And so if there's any bit of little contamination left in the final product, it might be a little piece of a green tie. This last year, we actually ran material through the screen a second time to remove that contamination. So we're gonna be spending a lot more energy educating our customers about what goes in each one of the carts so that we can reduce this contamination. Our compost is certified organic, and we're certified with the not only the Department of Food and Agriculture here in California, but since we have so many organic farmers, and the Napa Green Business Program is now moving into vineyards, including vineyards in that. We work with a certification group that's called the Organics Materials Research Institute. And many of the farmers don't want to buy the product unless we have that certification. So anyway, we can go to the next slide. So here's the just the certification program, and we're able to give the customer who's going to purchase the compost to put it back in their vineyards or even their organic farms, whether they're growing tomatoes or other vegetables or other crops. We have an annual recertification that we have to do each year with both of the entities. Let's see, is this yours or mine? This is mine. Okay, the recycling contamination. I think we're getting ready to send out a crew that's going to be doing lid flips and also doing more floor sorts here and tracking the loads as they come in. So if a commercial route comes in, like this sort of looks like a commercial route because it has a lot of wine bottles. And this was supposed to be a source separated glass program. And as you can see, when they dumped the load, it had a whole bunch of other stuff. So this is getting back out to the business entity and making sure that, you know, all the staff in that business understands what goes where. And so that staff training is a really big component to understanding our waste stream, this sort of 1383 go around. And so you're going to be seeing a lot more of not just Amanda, but our team as well. And we call this sort of wish recycling. We actually get a lot of clothing. We get a lot of really strange things, but I think because the blue card is so big and many people have a small 32-gallon cart. And certainly during COVID, we saw all of the refuse and recycling numbers increase because people were home, and they might not have been able to fit all their garbage in the small can. And so stuff started overflowing in other cans. And so part of the 1383 requirement does require lid flipping. And so you will see our staff out in the community, both at your business and at your home. And it will require us to slow the route down a little bit so the staff can get ahead. So if we normally pick up your blue or green card at 7 a.m., the day that they decide to do the route audit, it'll probably be pushed back by about 3 hours so the staff can get ahead of the particular route and we can start addressing the contamination issue.
Okay, so let's see, I have a recycling slide and a trash one next. So this kind of gives you, like the compost slide, a good idea of what should go in the recycling. I usually recommend to keep in mind to residents and businesses, there's 4 main categories of recyclables: clean paper, rigid plastic, metal, and glass. And if it's not one of those items, as long as it's not a hazardous waste, you know, you want to put it in the trash. And if it's something that maybe you're getting a lot of at your business and you're kind of curious what to do with it, or maybe if there's alternatives, Christy and myself can kind of help to give some advice on that. One item that is new is you are now able to put Tetra Pak or aseptic cartons in the recycling, which is like chicken broth, as you see on there, soy milk, almond milk, those types of things come in that, and milk cartons as well. So those can go in the recycling now versus the trash is where they went before. You want to make sure that anything you put in the recycling at home and at work is as clean, dry, and empty as possible. Usually maybe like that cottage cheese container, for example, make sure it's empty. Maybe just put a little bit of water, put the lid on and give it like a quick rinse. Or if you have a towel that you use for something else, a paper towel, you can just give it a wipe with a paper towel, put that in the compost, and you could put the rigid plastic container into the recycling. As you saw in the previous slide that Christy had, you saw black bags in the recycling. So if a black bag makes it into the recycling, makes it to Christy's recycling sorting facility, Upper Valley sorting facility, that generally will just be thrown away as trash because her staff don't have time to rip open every bag, determine if it's recycling or not. Just for the sake of efficiency, those generally have to go into a pile where they're thrown away as trash. So either use no bags at all. I don't use any bags at home. I know at some businesses, they do use bags for just efficiency for their custodial staff. So perhaps maybe don't use any bags in your recycling bins kind of throughout your facility. And when your custodial staff are collecting everything, use a clear bag on a larger bin to kind of collect all the recyclables from around your property. And then you can put that into your larger exterior recycling bin. As far as trash goes, like I mentioned, the cart color you'll see there is going to be transitioning from brown to gray. It'll be as Upper Valley gets new accounts or new services. And as far as having them all be swapped out for anybody that's not getting a new service, the state law doesn't require that to happen until 2036. So they're aware that that would be really wasteful to switch out a lot of carts that are still in good shape. Some examples of what needs to go in the trash would be any kind of soft, flimsy plastics. So like on the slide, the chip bag, granola bar wrappers, plastic bags, any plastic that you could easily crush with your hand, you would want to put into the trash. Those Amazon packages, hoses that aren't in good shape anymore, styrofoam would have to go in the trash as well. So if you're getting shipments, I think seafood often comes into restaurants in styrofoam, so that if it's not something the vendor could take back and potentially reuse again, styrofoam would have to go into the trash as well. You would not want to put hazardous waste in the trash. So that could be any kind of cleaners you're not using anymore, automotive fluids, batteries, fluorescent light bulbs. So there is a site in South Napa that businesses can use at any time. You have to call, make an appointment to use that. And then we're also going to be having what we call a temporary hazardous waste event in Calistoga. I think Yountville, you probably would be closer to the site in South Napa. However, on November 5th, we'll be at the Calistoga Fairgrounds. We have a hazardous waste hauler that will be accepting waste from businesses. Businesses do pay a fee based on what the hazardous waste item is and how much there is. And you can reach out to me for more info on that event. Okay, pass this over to you, Christy.
Okay, so as part of our new agreement, the residential community now gets 2 bulky item pickups per year. And so if you have bulky items, you just give us a call and we normally will schedule it on your regular collection day. So it's not designed on a certain day of the year. All year long, you can call and get the 2 large items and then 5 pieces of e-waste. Some of the items there may be an extra fee for, like the appliances, and if they have Freon in them, and if they have to be sort of decommissioned and pulled apart, there might be a fee associated with it. But for the most part, real standardized stuff like furniture and bicycle and exercise equipment is all included in your service now. So we're pretty excited about that, and people have been receiving their information and have been calling up and getting their stuff picked up at the curb. Amanda just mentioned our hazardous waste collection event. You're going to be seeing more information coming out about that. And we will be providing 3 electronic waste and shredding events a year. This one in November will be the first. The second one, we work with Councilmember Moeller organizing one in Yountville. And I think it's usually done around Earth Day. And then we do another one about the same time in St. Helena. So we're probably gonna broaden those events and make them a little bit bigger. Margie, I haven't discussed this with you yet, but I'm thinking maybe not on a Friday afternoon in downtown Yountville, but maybe a Saturday morning, and we get more folks to participate, not stop traffic. So anyway, all good stuff. So this event coming up, we'll have a 5-box maximum in Calistoga. So if you have 5 boxes, we welcome you to bring it up along with your electronics and your hazardous waste. And we're really excited. I think it's going to be a super great event. All of that is going to be also listed on our website. So at any time you want to know when is the next hazardous waste event or when is the next shredding event, you'll be able to go to the calendar section of our website and click on the calendar, and the events will all be listed there. This is the Clover Flat Resource Recovery Park. I talked about, that's actually where currently the brown cart and transitioning to the gray cart. So we're no longer purchasing brown carts. We do have a few good brown carts still in inventory, but no longer the 35 gallons. So the standard small cart, everything from now on out is transitioned to gray. I think our 64-gallon carts are also great. I actually think we no longer have any brown inventory except what's out there. And so the life of the cart is about 7 years. And of course, we don't want to have another plastics problem. So we want to maximize the use of those carts. If your cart needs switching out, tell your friends, all you have to do is give us a call and let us know if it's cracked or has broken components to it, and we'll get it switched out for you. But this is where the landfill, it's located north of St. Helena and south of Calistoga on the Silverado Trail. And we have a permit for about 600 tons a day. We currently take in an estimated, on average, in a non-fire year, about 200 tons a day and about 190 vehicles on a given day. That's not counting our refuse trucks, but the general public. In 2011, we purchased an engine and went into a power purchase agreement with PG&E. We actually make 1 megawatt of power out of the methane. So as the refuse that's in Clover Flat is breaking down, it creates methane. The methane is actually extracted through a conveyance system. You can go to the next slide. And so the well that you see, we have 34 wells throughout the landfill. The actual fill, where we landfill, is about 28 acres. And then surrounding the buffer area around the landfill is about 80 acres. And then the buffer around that 80 acres is about 500 acres. And prior to the glass fire, you may not necessarily, we weren't in the regular view shed, but the glass fire did come through and burn most of the 500 acres surrounding the facility. The engine, we lost some equipment and some piping conveyance, but our gasification engine for the methane was saved. Actually, the CAL FIRE folks stayed there and protected it. The flare, if the engine goes down, the gas is then flared. And usually every quarter we do a 2-day cleaning on the engine. It creates a heavy residue called siloxane, and it needs to be basically removed from the engine head. So we produce about 1 megawatt, 800 kW of power continuously. It goes to a power line that is connects down at the Silverado Trail, and that power goes to the city of Calistoga, and we power about 800 homes in the city of Calistoga. This is just some of the stuff that we do at Clover Flat Resource Recovery Park. Like I said, all of our rates are now on the website at uvds.com. There's a drop-down menu for Clover Flat. It has all the hours, the rates, the materials that are free for drop-off, the materials that we charge for. We were purchasing California State Redemption Value. That section of the landfill did burn. We're in the process of reopening that facility, and we're just waiting for our building permit for our, it's like a temporary Connex box that we're going to be putting the scale and the computer in. And as soon as we receive that, we can finish our business plan with Cal Recycle, and then we'll be back open. We had hoped to be open by now, and unfortunately things are just taking longer than anticipated, but we're getting close. This is an interesting slide because it talks about how the COVID-19 pandemic has impacted our businesses along with the glass fire. So we've kind of were hit with a double whammy, like 2 punch. So anyway, this is very interesting because particularly the town of Yountville, when the governor created his stay-at-home order back in March of 2020, Yountville was a perfect little microcosm of what's happening in our business. It's we have a very low population in Yountville and a very high business population, and our overall Upper Valley business model is a very low population. We only have 8,000 customers, but we have 1,800 business customers, and those 1,800 business customers make up 70% of our revenue. So when all the businesses were shuttered, it's hard for our company to operate just on the revenue from the 8,000 residential customers. And so what you see in these commercial, just the greenways, 19 versus 20, we had a negative 30% decline in material. From 19 to 21, it's gotten a little better. So it's still down about 13% when this report was done April to July. The commercial recycling from 19 to 20 was negative 42%. So 42% less volume coming to us. 19 to 21, it's still down about 20%. I'll just scooch down to the glass because that's pretty interesting. We process, because of the wine industry, we process more glass than anybody else in Napa County and probably anybody else in the Bay Area. 19 versus 20, we lost 68% of our glass volume, and 19 to 21, it's up 4%. So as we're seeing the restaurants and hotels and wineries come back to visitation, we're now, as you know, everybody's excited to be here. And so we're up 4% over normal now. And this is about the fire debris, the glass fire. We actually have taken in 120 tons of ash. A normal disposal year for us is about, it's about half of that, maybe a little bit less than that, 41,000 tons. I was gonna say 38, but it's probably more like 41,000 tons. So, so far we've taken in 120. When we had the Tubbs fire, we thought we probably removed 3 years of the landfill's life. And we're thinking with the glass fire, it's probably about the same, another 3 years. So we're slated to close the landfill, the actual fill portion of our business in 2047. The next thing to kick in for us is this 1383, which is going to require us to remove 75% of those organics. So we actually have time to sort of recoup what was just placed these last few years in the landfill. And we have cited and permitted Clover Flat for a commercial composting operation. So that's all good news. We took in a lot of metal and we're still taking in a lot of metal, 2,000 tons of metal in the last year, which is quite a bit of material for us. So total processed and disposed or processed is 174,000 tons. And like I said, on a normal year, it's 41,000 tons of trash and 21,000 tons of green waste. And we're still getting a lot of wood, and PG&E is also bringing us a lot of the defensible wood that they're removing from properties now. That's being chipped. I think we can go to the next slide. Maybe that's being chipped. There's a pile of the wood material. We're currently composting this wood material at UVDS. We're blending it right now in with the grape pumice and the green waste that's coming in from the residential community. And then our next project is permitting a wood biomass plant. And this is just an example of a 1 megawatt Phoenix Energy biomass plant. And I describe it, if anybody has a green egg barbecue, you probably know what I'm talking about. So the inside of this little biomass plant is actually clay inside, and it slowly bakes the wood chips. It removes what moisture is in there. I think there's about 3% moisture in the chip. It uses the water from the chip to recirculate and do an emissions clean, and then it sends it into another engine. So we would purchase another, probably Yembacher engine, and we would create another megawatt of power and be able to send that to the grid. This really is a requirement of 1383, and it's sort of the next project that we're working on with the community. Is this, I'm sorry, this is a collaboration slide.
So. Yes. Yes. Well, so I guess I'll just mention that between myself as staff at the agency and Christy and her staff at Upper Valley Disposal, we're always looking to do more outreach at residential events. So if your business, if you have some sort of fair or somewhere where kind of the public, hopefully like local community members are coming in, we're happy to go provide information on recycling and compost. This photo shows on the left a tour looking at finished compost. You are also able to do tours to see Upper Valley's materials recovery facility, which is where the recycling kind of is processed and sorted. Christy, do you have other things?
We're going to be at the Yountville Town Days. We're going to have a truck in the parade. We're going to have an information table. We'll also be at the St. Helena Hometown Harvest Festival. So anytime you guys have any kind of platform going on, we're happy to show up and just, we've been to the farmer markets up Valley, and we'll continue to do that periodically just to, you know, make sure everybody, you know, has the information that they need. And these are just some of the regulatory agencies that oversees our operations. We work very closely with the Water Board, Air Resources District, Cal Recycle. We have monthly inspections with our county LEA, which is called a local enforcement agent. They work through the county, but they're actually part of a department of Cal Recycle, and where our businesses are all completely compliant with all of their permits and requirements. And in summary, I just want to reiterate that we're a fully integrated system. So if you just think about it as sustainability, all of these operations are happening in the community that we service. This is really what sustainability really means. Of course, we don't have plants to process our bottle and cans right here in Napa County, but what we do have are, you know, now 3 composting operations. We are still an agricultural community, and the agricultural byproduct that is being produced here on all levels, there is a sustainable model and pathway to get it back into local vineyards and landscape. And part of 1383 has a component, and also our new franchise agreement has a component that is going to allow this compost to come back to you as well. And so if you live in a multi-family complex, or you're in the mobile home park, and we're going to be getting the compost to you, because it's really important for you to close the loop on what you put in that green cart. And we want to make sure, even if you just have a garden on your porch or your front stoop, we want to make sure that if you want to use that compost to grow your plants or vegetables, or you have a community garden that you're involved in, that compost is getting back to you. And so that's a component both of 1383 and our franchise agreement. And so we really want you to sort of be part of this. You are by de facto part of this regulation, and it really is the biggest change to hit not just our industry, but our jurisdiction, our community on a county level, but also on a city and town level. And so the enforcement component will come from your city or your town. So anyway, with that, I guess we can open it up for questions.
Thank you, ladies. That was absolutely wonderful and incredibly informative. And I think a lot of information for all of us to take in. And like I said, we're recording this webinar, so there's definitely opportunities to go back and watch some of these sections again. And I think, as Amanda and Christy said multiple times, they're happy to come out to your business and help educate your employees should you need that. So that's always available. I'll go ahead and pause there. Does anybody have any questions for Amanda or Christy today? Maybe one question I had is that, does this go into effect on January 1st, 2022, or is it later in the year? What does that timeline look like?
Yes, so the state law, we as a jurisdiction must be ready to implement it as of January 1, 2022. January 1, 2024 is the date when the state requires us to start taking enforcement actions for people who are not compliant, but January 1, 2022.
Okay, great, thank you. Excellent. Any other questions or last comments?
Whitney, can you maybe provide in the chat some contact information for both Amanda and Christy and myself, so that if anybody needs to reach out, they can try one of us and we'll get them to the right person if we don't have the answers.
Yeah, absolutely. ladies, if you wouldn't mind dropping your info into the chat, that would be very helpful.
Okay. I'll do that too.
Yeah, that would be great. And of course, you know, if you need help getting a hold of anyone, you can always just email Jessica or I, and we'll help you get connected. Vice Mayor, I expected some sort of question from you.
No, I'm actually the town's appointed alternate committee to the JPA, alternate to the JPA board. So I'm pretty much up on this. I was actually just at Clover Flats earlier this week. So,
all right.
Thank you.
Excellent. Very, very good. Okay. Well, Amanda or Christy, any last thoughts or comments before we wrap it up?
I would just like to say that we also have bilingual translation. So if we're coming in to do a training in your business, we have a Paulina Rodriguez who will join and be able to translate for your staff. And we're able to, you know, accommodate the time frames. You know, I know in some of the restaurants in particular, you know, it's like an early morning crew or a midday, late afternoon crew. And so if it's, or even if it's an after work thing, like stay at 5 o'clock and let's do it at 5:30 to 6. Sometimes when companies are doing safety training, we've come in as a tagging into their safety training program. So I'm just throwing that out there because you may not be thinking about that, but you're like, oh, great, let's bring them in for safety training day, which you might do quarterly or once a month or whatever. So, and we're happy to go out into the field. Like even if you don't have, if it's more of a tailgate situation, we can do that as well. So I just want to say we're very flexible.
Okay, great. Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining us this morning for this webinar about the new regulations for recycling and composting. And ladies, you did an absolutely fantastic job. It was incredibly informative, and I'm sure we'll be in touch about this topic as we move into 2022 and beyond. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us, and hope you have a great day.
Thanks for organizing it with me.
Everybody. Yay.